Hello and welcome to the second Explore Digital Speaker Series. Hello again and welcome to the Explore Digital Speaker Series. We are on our second installment. My name is Lorna Bondak and I'm calling in from the Philippines. I can see everyone coming in, starting to say hello and good morning from Vietnam, Cambodia, Singapore, and Philippines, and Brunei. I see Borneo here too. Round of applause, everybody. I would like to thank all of you for taking a morning off to join us today in this interesting and insightful episode. So I'm joined today by two of my good friends, very inspiring people. I can't wait for all of you to meet them. This is Explore Digital and Go Digital ASEAN. The Go Digital ASEAN is implemented by the Asia Foundation with funding from Google.org, Google's philanthropic arm. And it is endorsed by the ASEAN Coordinating Committee on the Micro, Small, Medium Enterprises. Welcome, everybody. In continuation of the successful first phase of Go Digital ASEAN, GDA 1, Go Digital ASEAN 2 broadens digital skills participation across the region by providing advanced, fit-for-purpose training programs, a lot of workshops for up to 200,000 underserved MSMEs across the ASEAN region. How about that? The Explore Digital component of training gathers together business owners like you and me in a speaker series format. Features entrepreneurs, thought leaders like Gina and Hadi, who you'll meet later on today, from across ASEAN to share their expertise, successes, a lot of storytelling here today, and insights on regional trends for small businesses. Here's what you can expect from today's webinar. Are you excited? As excited as me. I was so looking forward to this today. We will hear some inspiring stories from Gina and Hadi for their successful journeys on digital skills adoption and tools, how these impacted them in their entrepreneurial journey. We will connect with peer entrepreneurs. So let's meet some new people around the room today, not only within your home country, but also your neighboring ASEAN countries. Before we get started, let's go through some housekeeping reminders. We encourage active participation, so please go and chime in your questions, use those emojis, get them going, get people excited. If you have some questions lingering in your head over there, just feel free to chat up. We will address your questions later on today. Write your questions in the Q&A box. You will find that in the bottom of your Zoom screen. Then you can share your thoughts and comments in the chat box. So whether it's a question, a comment, or a suggestion, please feel free to put your thoughts in there. Express yourself with emojis, like we said. There's a lot more than a smiley face. So just give us a heart, give us a thumbs up, whatever you feel like, or maybe a celebration, right? So let's celebrate and access all the tools available to us this morning. You can also access the translation channels through the interpretation tab. Okay, it's right down there below. Then if you're all wondering, okay, if you're in a country that would like to view on a mobile device, you can do that. Access your interpretation tab by clicking on the button as shown on the screen here. Different languages, different strokes, different folks, but we're here together celebrating your journey as an MSME. Also, we will be granting certificates of participation, okay, when you complete the post-webinar survey. So we will be having this posted on the screen before we exit today's episode. Feel free to note down your questions, surveys, notes, so you don't forget them during the survey portion. Reminder, this webinar may be recorded and distributed as part of the Go Digital ASEAN program. So if you're like me, I've had a cup of coffee today. Yes, some breakfast, hopefully, but we're in for some really good nugget, bite-sized, snackable insights from our guests today. Let me get started by introducing you to Gina Romero. I met Gina a few years ago. Gina is a Filipino-British entrepreneur, community builder, and technology advocate. She is the founder and head of special projects at Connected Women, a socially responsible AI and digital task outsourcing community that aims to improve the lives of Filipino women through meaningful online work. Some of you may recognize her already, those calling in from the Philippines especially. She has been working with the Asia Foundation on multiple programs and is passionate about informing, inspiring, and equipping women to embrace technology, build businesses, and launch careers that create impact in communities around the world. Welcome, Gina. Hey, hey. Okay. Hadi Othman, our second guest speaker. His venture into the world of business began at the young age of, guess what, 10, where he was already helping out a family retail business. He was fascinated with digital tools and the internet and began learning and freelancing in web development. Call him a techie. His experience includes building digital entrepreneur communities with Google, accelerating startups, and kicking off a digital startup ecosystem. Well, he's a generalist. His biggest strength lies in helping create value for companies to scale quickly. Today, he is focused on the Gen Z economy, working with startups in content creation, live streaming, and esports. Wow, what a powerhouse. We have 2 people, but it's like 10 people. Okay, welcome Gina and Hadi. Why don't you spend, maybe we'll give Gina a couple minutes to tell us a little bit more about what she's currently doing, busy with, and then we'll switch over to Hadi.
Sounds great. Good morning, everyone. So great to be here. Well, I'm an entrepreneur at heart and a community builder. I found my passion for technology somewhere along the line, and so that became part of sort of who I am and what I do. Right now, we are here in the Philippines running Connected Women. We're a community of around 180,000 mostly Filipino women, but we do actually have chapters outside of the Philippines as well. And our advocacy is really around how do we bring remote and flexible work to women, and how do we make sure that they're upskilled in future, upskilled for future opportunities like the artificial intelligence industry. So we have a number of different flagship programs that really focus on providing those AI skills, and then even matching this talent network to clients all over the world who need different types of services to power their AI application. So we actually act as a sort of services arm for companies where they can come to us and resource their different projects. And that's kind of a new evolution for Connected Women that happened in 2020. So I think Lorna is going to be asking more about that later.
Thank you, Gina. Yes, I have some questions saved here for you. Thank you. Hadi?
Hello, everyone. So me, well, I don't know when I really started this venture into entrepreneurship. I guess, like you mentioned, the first time was like helping out with family business, looking at money. And then after that, as I grew up, then, the whole concept of, I grew up in the internet age. That should tell everybody, how old I am. I was the first one with a mobile phone in my school. But I think the turnaround came in, I think the late 2000s, where I got involved with a few Singapore companies, and we kicked off the ecosystem in Brunei to do startups. And from there, it's been a journey with Google, with in England as well. Then learning so much about like what I don't know, because I come from Brunei, right? So I guess I can relate to a lot of people who are like, okay, wait, I have not seen the rest of the world. I was like that once upon a time. I have not seen the rest of the world. We don't have tall buildings in Brunei. I think it's over 10 stories. And then suddenly I was like I was in California, I was in London. I was like, wow, there's so much that we can do. And I didn't realize that now today, I think I'm taking all of that and saying to my friends here of a slightly younger age, like, hey guys, and of course, my friends who are retirees as well. Hey guys, we can start businesses here. Like we can do things that are, more than what you have in Brunei. Yeah. And
Thanks,
that's how I
Hadi.
started.
Yeah. When you started mentioning about the early 2000s, the mid 2000s or late 2000s, that all
Yes.
seemed like yesterday, but that's already 25. It's like quarter of a
I know.
decade, a century ago. But a lot has changed since for both Gina and you, I bet. And
Yes.
that's what we're here to unpack, no? So I have a few key questions here that revolve around resilience. So I know there's differences in each of our backgrounds, and that's one way to get all our attendees today started on maybe hatching an idea for a business or how to do things better, do things a different way. My first question, I guess I'd like to talk for you to talk about the pain point, no, the struggle. Like, what was it like before you even hit the big idea that, okay, I need to get started doing something better? What was the pain point that triggered that whole ideation, or that wake up call, if there's any that you can share with our attendees? Maybe you can talk about that. Maybe let's go with Gina first.
Yeah. So, well, I have a kind of interesting background. My mom was from, well, she comes from a very small town here in the Philippines, and she went to the UK in the 70s to look for overseas work as a domestic worker. So I was actually brought up in the UK in many Filipino communities. But I guess, you know, growing up in the UK, I didn't have that perception of some of the challenges that we have, you know, here in the Philippines. It was only decades later when I moved to Singapore and I met a lot of Filipino domestic workers there in Singapore. And so that question led me to ask, why are Filipino women still leaving the country because of lack of opportunities at home? And so that was, I guess, the spark that led me to go on to create Connected Women. But the real question that we were trying to solve is like, are there not enough opportunities at home? And can we leverage technology to bring those opportunities home? So that's really where it started. We knew that there was some problem that needed solving, but we didn't really understand what the solution would be. And so over the last decade, even, a lot of my work has been trying to understand and test, you know, and experiment with different solutions that might contribute to solving that problem. And many of them didn't really work. And even right now, we're still trying to figure out the best way to solve that problem. It's a very big problem, which is a good thing, right? Because life is too short to focus on small problems.
Thanks, Gina. I'd like to chime in a little bit about what you said about creating opportunities back home. I'm also born in the age where my father is also an overseas worker for 25 years. So it's the lack of opportunity, although he was an engineer here too. I think the competitiveness of salaries, and you know, you earn a living, but is it sufficient, kind of thing. And now with advanced technology, and I like what you said about equipping, you're still trying to crack the code, right? So it's opening opportunities, and you're now training up women entrepreneurs in the space of AI to use that as a springboard to more job opportunities that could possibly sustain, you know, livelihood. So thank you. That's very enlightening. I guess that's a wake-up call for those of us in the Philippines who are thinking, what else can I do if not work abroad? What else is there? So thank you, Gina. Hadi, what about you? What was the pain point that I guess sparked the ideas that you had getting started?
So I have a more personal reason for being back in Brunei and starting my business here. So I've spent the last 7 years in Indonesia and Malaysia, actually. So the trigger point for my current startup is really coming back because of family reasons. And then looking around at my friends and my younger family members who were like, hey, you know, like, what are the opportunities that we can do locally? And being a very super small market, I was quite, what's the word? I was quite unsure at the beginning. But then being in Indonesia and looking at the opportunities there, we realized that, hey, you know, a lot of friends in Indonesia were not making money only from Indonesia. A lot of friends, even in Pakistan, were not making money from Pakistan. So we're like, okay, what's that? That's the global market now is open. You know, you have e-commerce, you have cross-border, which is cross-border now thanks to better logistics. And the pandemic actually ushered an interesting way of doing things. And that's how this whole thing started. So I was like, what can we do without leaving the country? And there were 3 things that we looked at, and that's what we've come up with, which is content, commerce, and the esports gaming community. So out of these 3, how do you tie them together? And that's the looking at the younger generation of Gen Z friends that I had, which were starting. Not all of them have been successful yet, and I'm not saying I'm successful at this yet, but that's the start of the journey that we're currently on. And the trigger point is really like looking at our market and saying, okay, let's not think physical anymore. Everything is digital, right? So So that's where, how can we make money? How can we sell things? How can we build a service that is international from the get-go? And enabling that is what is the problem that we'd like to solve at our place. And that's what we've started. And that's the trigger point, like looking at it like, how can I do this without actually flying to Manila, to Jakarta, to Bangkok every week? Because there was a point in time where I was traveling every day in a plane, and I was like, I don't want that life as well, and I don't want to wish that life on anyone else. It sounds great, and it is great for the first month. After that, you're like, sorry. But so looking at those tools and seeing like, oh, actually, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tools. How do you bring all those tools in one place? And that's what we started, Blanca.
Brilliant. I like the term you used, enablement, right? So there's local workforce that has the opportunity to create, service-based industries that use technology. I guess that's Gina's and your common thread is you're using technology to bring jobs inshore rather than send people out, right? So there's that fine balance of capitalizing on the labor market, which is available. A follow-up question that I'm interested in, speaking of enablement, is many people think that running, a business, a technology-based business, or any type of business requires you to have a specific field of expertise formed from years of schooling, training, and refinement, right? So what was your tell us a little bit more about your story in this area, because I know there's subtle differences in how you guys entered this world of digital tech, right? So both of you did not have prior background knowledge, but what did you do to gain knowledge? Because a lot of the people that are scared to enter the tech space is, well, I don't have the IT background, I don't have the educational background. What was it like for you both? Maybe we can start with Hadi first and then Gina next.
Okay. I think that I did. So when I first started freelancing web design, I did not do IT at all. I came from our accounting and economics high school, and nobody knew how to program HTML. And this is just before the year 2000. And it would cost a lot of money to be connected to the internet. So Brunei used to be the first one with high-speed internet in Asia. Yeah, we were first to have these like high-speed fiber, whatever. And it was interesting because it's very expensive. So I was like, oh, how do I fund my internet? So basically I was like, oh, you know what? I see all these people building web pages online. And I was like, maybe I can do that. So I started learning. I just took every day, I just like learned it. I even bought books from the bookstore. I totally didn't learn this in school. I just like read. Okay, I can do this. I can copy paste this and copy paste that. And that's how I did it. So I just charged friends who wanted, hey, I want my face on the internet. And it's like, okay, here, just pay me $50. So they would pay me $50. I would put a page up, and there I got like that's the first payment for my internet, and that's how it started. People started paying me. I think that was back in the day. I think most of the younger generation would have never heard of GeoCities or what is that? They didn't have Facebook. They didn't have Instagram. There was no Google, by the way, at that time. It was still Yahoo. And I just built pages on it, pages and big pages, and then made money. So that's how I funded my, so just, that's how I started at the very, very beginning. And of course, I'm not a programmer. I never have. I've graduated in business. My best subject is actually finance. But yeah, all along the way, it's all learning from startups that I work with, business owners, startup owners, technology guys who like, when they had crypto and exactly just like, oh, this is how it works. Okay. But I tell you, I will never be able to program anything in Ethereum or Bitcoin. But yes, it's a learning point where you can say, oh, I can start a business in this. That's what you really need, because now you leave, there's always someone who's better than you at technology. But what you can be better at is how do you use that technology to make money. And that's how I think it should be.
Wow, resourcefulness and your self-taught. I like what you said about, it being expensive. Now what can we do? Right? Who wants to pay me $50 to put their face on the internet? Okay, so that's, self-learning is a big thing. And I'd like to thanks, Hadi. I'd like to hear from Gina. What was your story behind this?
Yeah, it's funny. There are so many threads that overlap in our sort of philosophy, I guess, Hadi. There's a lot of solution building, right, that's coming out from both of us, I think, because a lot of the time we're trying to figure out how to solve something. And I think that's a really entrepreneurial thing if you listen to entrepreneurs talk. And then, of course, how do I do this? What are the resources that I have? So, well, I was actually cabin crew when my husband and I got together, and we had 2 small children, and I was on maternity leave from flying, and really we just wanted to figure out how to earn extra money while I was grounded, from flying, and he had a job as a systems engineer. So it was really kind of like, what can we do to earn a bit of extra money? And we started with buying and selling laptops. So I had no background in tech at all. He had the tech background. And, we would build a basic website to sell these refurbished laptops. We would use eBay at the time, which was like very popular for auction, selling items on auctions. It's still around now, not sure how popular. So we were really doing things like that. And we also realized that Wi-Fi was becoming quite popular in commercial hotspots, like in cafes. So we even started up a business selling residential Wi-Fi hotspots to different apartments. We set up Wi-Fi from my friend, and then we realized that the Wi-Fi was going up and down the building. So we were selling it at £10 a month to the other apartments. It was all, for us, it was more always about solving something, not really about the making money part. But everything, for me, everything in technology has been self-taught. But I love technology. I mean, I love the possibilities that it creates. And I really see it as a tool for solving problems. So I don't see it as something intimidating. And actually, I'm probably before my husband when it comes to playing with new tools, because I'm probably more curious about how these tools can be applied to help people, and then, I mean, now, of course, we're moving into the AI industry, and I really resonate a lot with what Hadi was saying, is that it's so overwhelming because every day there's something new. So I'm constantly in LinkedIn, following all the top leaders, understanding maybe 2% of what they're talking about, watching lectures in Oxford University. I was a terrible student, by the way. I couldn't sit through school, and I didn't make it through my college years, and I barely made it through high school, truth be told. I just got bored too easily, and I didn't resonate with some of the methods of teaching. But now, with access to YouTube videos and ChatGPT and all the different generative AI tools where you can ask a question and just keep asking questions over and over again, I find that I'm so empowered to learn. So I think for those who are listening, who are not traditional learners, this is really our time.
Thanks, Gina. That's awesome. Self-learning. I think learning never stops, right? Especially when you're an entrepreneur and you want to keep tabs with what's going on. And there's 2 opposite reactions to that. I think there's people that get overwhelmed easily because there's too much information, too many possibilities. Where do I even start? And I think that's when you narrow down your areas of interest. Your curiosity is natural, both of you, and I think that speaks volumes of your journey to learning new things, new ways to solve problems, etc., etc. And that kind of opens up plenty of other doors for business building, right? So, I can see some claps, and thank you for your emojis, heart signs over here for Gina and Hadi. Thank you. So I have a second question here for the both of you. you know, when you're running a business, it's not, okay, this is the original plan, and I know I'm going towards fulfilling that or achieving that goal. Um, there, there are more occasions than we care to admit that require us to change plans, adjust our plans, or maybe altogether leave what was originally planned and start something new. What was a pivot story that maybe you can share with our audience today? You know, a change in strategy, perhaps based on what you gathered as feedback. Customers didn't really like this. Oh, they like this, right? So, what was a story or two that you can share with us to maybe give some insights for our learners who are thinking of, shall I continue doing this, going this way, or shall I change direction? Maybe we can start with Gina.
Yeah, so this is a really interesting question, because I think most of the time when you want to solve a problem and you have an idea as an entrepreneur, right? Especially when you're a new entrepreneur, you really feel that the idea that you have is going to solve the problem and make you millions. But the reality is very different. I mean, when you actually try to implement that idea, that's when you start to realize that, you know, you might have got it completely wrong. And actually that happened with Connected Women. So when I came back from Singapore and the UK here to the Philippines in 2017, our plan was actually to build a job matching platform, like an Upwork, but focus on helping Filipino. In my head, I felt that that was going to help those less privileged women who were leaving the country, you know, because of lack of opportunities. I actually couldn't have been more wrong because when we came back and we built the job matching platform, which obviously took, you know, time, effort, investment, we had angel investors. When we finally launched the beta platform about a year or so after we had started building it, it was funny because when we started looking at the matching, the women who were actually securing jobs, aside from the ones that were signing up because they needed a job, it was really the top 10% or maybe even the top 5% of the most educated women coming from corporate leadership roles who were actually transitioning out of corporate into freelancing. So that was a very shocking moment for me as an entrepreneur, because I realized that while we were solving a problem and providing a service, you know, valuable service to entrepreneurs, it wasn't the problem that we set out to solve. So I think that's the point as an entrepreneur, when you say, this is great, we could probably build this out and make money, right? And is that okay? Or are you going to go back to your North Star, right? Whatever it was that you set out to do in the first place. I don't think there's a wrong or right. I think it really depends on you. It's okay to change your model and your direction and solve a different problem. But for me personally, because of my story that I shared, it wouldn't have been right for me to continue on that path. And thankfully, my entire management team and investment team, although they thought I'd gone crazy at the time, had supported me when I had the idea to pivot into the AI industry, which allowed access to, you know, much more entry-level roles.
Interesting. Gina, that's clearly, you know, it takes a lot of, I guess, humility also to accept that, or originally designed, like, I got it all figured out. I'm going to solve this problem, and this is the way to go. So you wake up one morning and say, well, why am I attracting a totally different set of audience? I didn't design this for them. That wasn't my messaging. And I'm glad you got the support that you need, because that's opened an avenue for you to, I guess, be more attuned to what the market needs, right? So pivoting and as you said, taking the pulse of what's working, what's not, and being able to adjust and direct your compass. Where's your North Star? I guess the big idea is to solve the bigger problem of granting women entrepreneurs or women workers avenues to do what drives them forward. I guess is bringing them joy and fulfillment in many respects, not just the chosen career. Yeah, thank you. I had to pause a bit when you said that. Oh yeah, it's okay to change. I heard you say it's okay to change your plans. It's not right or wrong. You just have to stay in tune with what was the plan and why are you doing this. right? So thank you, Gina. Hadi, maybe we can hear from you.
This is a question that's interesting at this point in time for us as well. So we started as a support platform for live streamers. So basically, if you're live streaming and you want to get support or gifts from your audience, you can do it through our platform. But then we realized that actually we had lots of streamers who wanted the service, but not enough people who wanted to give to these streamers. So then then we realized like why, and then it's a cultural issue. So there's a so whatever business you start, whether it's whatever technology you use, whatever enablement you use, there is a difference as well between users and customers. And customers is the person who pays, right? So streamers were actually our users. Whereas, if you look at other platforms, you would say, no, the user would be the person at the other end, and you have somebody in between that's actually your customer. So for us, we actually only realized later on it's actually the other way around. So because the audience is not used to supporting their streamers in the markets that we operate in, we actually said, okay, maybe we have to change the business model totally. So today, we have turned our live streaming network into an affiliate program. So now the streamers actually earn money from e-commerce that goes through their streams. So it's different, and they've not had this before. So it's very interesting because they make money, or that they will make money. We haven't launched this totally yet. It's still beta. And that's where the audience is used to buying stuff from the live streamers. So they're not used to giving them, tips or stuff like that, but they're used to giving to buying from live streamers. So there's a difference in culture from the end customer perspective that we only realized after 6 months of doing this. We were like, oh, what's wrong? Is it? So obviously our platform's not perfect. It's still a lot of issues with it. But we're also looking at like, why are there no transactions at all? And we already have like many streamers on it. And then the end result, we've interviewed lots of streamers, but we never interviewed the audience, and that was our issue, right? So we made a mistake. So yeah, we looked at that. We've looked at the entire market, and in the last 3 weeks, we've been like rebuilding our entire backend, and then to match with the new expectations of our market. So adjusting to market is either, so from Gina, I think you were like, no, that's not the target market, so I have to adjust my platform. Ours is like, that's our target market, but we have the wrong platform, so we're gonna adjust to it. So it's almost the same. It's just a different view of it.
Yeah. Oh my. So change. Okay. So what can I say? Change is, I guess, a common ingredient in business, and being adaptable to change is actually the call to action for business owners. Yeah. Don't be scared to change or switch plans. A follow-up question, with managing change and disruptions and revamping your whole business model is, okay, tools. We're talking about restarting, rebooting, revisiting our plans. What were the tools, I guess, digital tools that help you make the change more easeful, before you actually grew in this new direction? Maybe you can share 1 or 2 things that help you manage that transition. We can start with Gina and then Hadi.
That's a good question. I mean, there's always a new tool, right? A new tool to help us, and a new tool to distract us from the work that we're supposed to be doing. So I think, I mean, right now it's crazy, right? Like the ChatGPT phenomenon that happened in the last sort of 18 months to 2 years for most of us is really insane. I mean, I think at the moment we're seeing the biggest catalyst for human productivity than we've maybe ever seen. And so, I think I think I'll project more into the future and to the present as opposed to looking back. I mean, we always have to keep our eye out for what's new, right? What's happening, empower ourselves, upskill ourselves. We've been through a few different revolutions of tools, like, the internet was a big one. And then the sharing economy was another, right? When music moved from physical discs to sort of pirate platforms, and then finally moved into legitimized platforms. And then we have the cloud tools, right? Where you can collaborate all of a sudden in a document and all be working on a document together. I mean, these major things, I think the people that have been able to identify them and embrace them and leverage on them are the people that really make the most benefit. But right now, I'm constantly amazed about how these AI tools are evolving. And I think, my best advice to everyone listening, no matter how technical or non-technical you are, is really learn these tools, study these tools, play with these tools, and be curious about what they are and how they can help you in your business. But also be cautious, cautiously optimistic, and participate in discussions around these new tools, because these new AI tools are a little bit different to previous tools that we've seen. I think they have more potential to impact the world in a really positive way, but they also have the potential to disrupt and cause, in some ways, bigger problems, right, for certain segments of society and for the society at large. So I think we really need to pay close attention to what's happening, closer than ever before, and continue to educate ourselves about these. And for those of us who are in a position of being a leader, whether we chose to be a leader or not, it's our responsibility to protect our communities in terms of the policies and the ethics around these tools.
I like that you spoke about immersing oneself and taking responsibility from when making choices on which tools to use and why, right? So there's always the value component to making work easier, faster, etc., etc. But I think that's a key component, is taking responsibility and making a conscious choice as to why you're using it and what's the impact, right? So thanks, Gina. Let's hear from Hadi. I have one more question, but go ahead, Hadi.
I suppose in terms of, so you have to separate, right? You have tools that you need for your business and tools you need for your personal productivity. What I've done, I guess, I haven't got a really hard rule about it, but I've limited, like, okay, I'm going to work with only these 4 tools for my productivity, for my personal productivity. And I'm only going to work with these 5 tools that I need for my platform to work. That way, so as new tools come in, you try it, and if it's better than the current tool, you can switch if it's not costing too much. But if not, I would say pick 5 tools that are, I know evergreen is probably an outdated word right now. There's no evergreen technology, but hey, like laptops still exist after, like, this is the 34th year, I think, of laptops existing. I mean, the iPad came along, the notepads came along, and still people are having laptops. So there's sort of like that kind of like, well, there are some forms and functions that you can't replace yet until, like, you have that full Star Trek holographic technology. You still need a laptop somewhere. You still need an iPad somewhere. You still need a car to get from one place to another, not a teleportation device. So same with tools. I think there's going to be like 4 or 5 tools that you need for yourself. So for example, like Gina mentioned, cloud-based collaboration. Yeah, I use Google Suite for the last, I don't know, since inception, I guess, 2008, 2009, when G Suite first came out. I've been using it from then until now. There's no change to the, there's lots of improvements to the software, but it's the same tool that I'm going to keep using until maybe a few more years. And then I've stuck to, because it's got everything that I need for a personal productivity standpoint, your calendar and everything. In terms of my business, I stick to a specific tool. So for marketing, it's definitely where my audience is. So if you have to figure out where your audience is, if it's Gen Z, then you better be on TikTok. If it's millennials, then yes, you have to be on Instagram. But if you're, so that means like if your audience and your market and everything is only Gen Alpha and Gen Z, why are you on Facebook? You know, that's gonna be the question you have to ask yourself. Is it because you're comfortable with it, but you're not gonna reach your customers? So that's what I have to learn every time in my tools. Like I love TikTok, but then maybe my audience isn't on it. Maybe they're on Facebook. So, you know, so I have to change accordingly. So for my business specifically, of course, I can still use many different tools for my own learning and stuff like that. But then again, limit. So experience it like Gina says, but I think we have to have a sort of not hard rule, but somehow make sure that we have a specific set of tools that optimizes our life and don't be controlled by the apps. And that's it. That's my point.
You explained what I meant about distraction very well there, Hadi. Because this is too easy to be distracted, right? And you're not talking about like 1 minute of distraction. You're talking about if you're not careful, you lost like 1 hour of your life, right?
Yeah, you get into that rabbit hole of a shiny new tool that just went out of market and everybody's talking about it. All of a sudden, you're there and forget about everything else. But I guess you're right. No, I'd like to um, um, point that out what you both said about it, why you're using it and how it's impacting your operations, your business. Is it really aligning with your goals for using the tool in the first place? Whether it's operations or marketing or sales, right? So it's making processes work efficiently, people work collaboratively and in near real time, right? So it's there are a lot of tools, and we all come, the three of us come from that environment where we're swimming in new tools. It's like woohoo, it's an ocean of tools. But I guess the bigger question that I'd like to ask, I take that back. I said I have one question, but I have two actually. So what impact did digital tools and technologies have when switching? Did you see, you know, how soon did you start seeing an impact in, okay, since we changed our plans and we're implementing new tools or technology, how has it sped up, I guess, our direction? What was the lowest hanging fruit for you in terms of impact? Was it more people connecting with you? Was it more sales, faster operations, faster delivery? Yeah, maybe we can start with Hadi this time. Yeah.
Sorry, you're asking me which tools I
Yeah.
used.
Yes. How
Uh,
it impacted and how it impacted your pivot, your change of plans.
Okay. So I wouldn't say okay, so my like in terms of how we pivoted, we really had to do our own manual studies. And I realized that, you know, nobody was taking up the situation. Um I would say in a previous startup, probably we would have a specific tool that looks at the workflow. There's quite a few, and it's a bit advanced, so you need to be able to understand where you want to study the user behavior on your platform and things like that. So at a previous startup that I advised, there was a app platform that they had, and people were buying stuff, but they couldn't figure out why people were buying this instead of that, because it's literally almost the same product. And it's actually until they implemented a tool that could study like where the heat maps were on the site, they realized that there was a workflow that allowed them to see the other product first. So then they realized, oh wait, we need a tool that can see this kind of thing. So they subscribed to it, and now they're doing well. For me personally, it's really figuring out back to where's your audience. That's the most important. And what tools are available to study that audience. And that's it. I don't see anything else that I would need personally or in the business that doesn't relate to your customer. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not sure because at the current startup, we don't actually have a specific tool that helps us identify that change. But on existing tools, yeah, I think having something that can study that, learning your tool very well. So if you're on TikTok or Instagram and looking at your customers, really understand what the analytics say. Don't just like, oh, look, I have like 100,000 new views, but you don't know what that means, like how many people
Yes.
are actually seeing it, who's converting, what's the age. There's tools inside your current applications that you probably never opened. So
Correct.
so try it.
Yeah.
And I think
So
that's important.
yeah, I like what you said about keeping an eye out for what it means. Yeah, it's all data. We're capturing data left and right, but so what, right? So what does this tell us about our customers and what our customers want? It's not about what we want, but what our customers' experiences look like. Thanks, Hadi. Gina?
Yeah, this is a really interesting question. Let me try and answer it from a different perspective. Well, remember, Connected Women upskills women who don't come from a tech background at all, and they often come from disadvantaged or marginalized groups or displaced groups. They would not consider themselves techie, right? These are not women who are saying, I want to work in the AI industry. But how our model works is that we actually have partners who fund the scholarships for the ladies. And then we work with the local government units to recruit women from their community who might be interested in this program. Most of the women who join our program just want to earn. They don't want to be an AI expert. They just want to earn from home, online. So that's why they join. And they also get paid for the training component as well, right? So while they learn, they also earn a little bit of money. But what is interesting is once they join the program, and it's very practical, so they're really doing hands-on data annotation work. And for those who don't know, data annotation is basically how we train an artificial intelligence on how to recognize, for example, what a car is, right? If you're building a self-driving car, you have to train the self-driving car AI to recognize people, streets, cars, different signs, and all the rest. So it's a very laborious process. And there are many tools and technologies involved. But if I tell the ladies that's what they're going to be doing, they will run away. So most of the time we ask them, like, do you know how to use Facebook? Do you know how to use YouTube? If they can navigate basic apps, they can upskill in any technology, right? Of course, there are some access limits in terms of the type of devices they have, the software they have to run, the internet connectivity that they need. And those are barriers that we work with different stakeholders on. But I think the most important thing is if you're already using YouTube and Facebook and the basic apps, if you're in this webinar, you can already learn any technology. And we've really proven that because some of the software that we use with our clients is extremely complicated, for image annotation, for computer vision, for example. Even using images from robotics that take pictures of farm crops and can be trained to analyze problems with leaves or pests or growth of crops. So, we start them very simple, and then we give them the simplest tasks. And then as they become more confident, we move them, more towards the more complicated tools. So I think that philosophy makes sense, right? We just start with what we know, and the things that we know that we can learn, and then we build on that. But I do want to agree with Hadi that the data literacy component, which is very different to digital literacy, right? Anyone can learn to use an app, but how you use that app to make sure that you're actually achieving your goal, whatever that goal might be, is really, really important. So I definitely think that basic analytics understanding, using the analytics tools that are already available to us in many of the different platforms that we use, is something that you should at least get a basic understanding of as an entrepreneur.
Thank you, Gina. I like what you said about breaking it down so people don't get intimidated at first blush, right? Because when they hear the word robotics, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, for some reason, people just they close up really fast. And I think that introducing it to them in a more practical sense, if you know how to use the basic tools, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, if you're on this webinar, you said you can learn to use, and that's kind of like an invitation to explore what's possible, what they can learn in terms of new tools without having to, I guess, address the initial impression that, oh, this is AI, that's not for me, right? So it kind of opens up, oh, let me see, and let's unpack this one by one. Okay, very nice, thank you. One final follow-up question is, ideas spring when, there's new things, new ideas, new tools to implement those ideas. I'd love for you to maybe insert a nugget or two about, increasing confidence means integrating and making tools, digital tools, an integral part of day-to-day business. Whether it's in marketing or sales or instant messaging or AI, using the help of AI tools for communicating with customers instantly, faster. What would you say were your, I guess, challenges integrating this? I guess you didn't have that much of a challenge integrating it because you're both embracing technology. But for those of our attendees now that are on the fence about technology, is it for my business? Okay, how do I integrate? What baby steps can I take to start adopting and introducing tools without saturating my employees or my team with so many, just one baby step at a time? What are your, I guess, nugget or two insights?
Let me jump in on that with a quick answer. So I think you really nailed the word when you said adoption. We can bring in all the tools, right? But whether people will actually use the tools is another thing. And there are many reasons why they don't use the tool. Either it hasn't been designed for them. That's one of the number one problems that I see with a lot of tech that's being designed, right? They design something for people who are like 3 or 4 or 5 down the chain away from them, and they haven't really consulted the person who's going to use the tool. And so there's a lot of assumptions being made about how that tool will help someone, but the person wasn't really consulted. Whether it's your own tool that you're developing or whether it's a tool that you want to bring into your company, right? So it's very important to get to test these tools on a small group of people that will actually use them and get their feedback before you roll out. Otherwise, you really waste a lot of time and money and cause a lot of frustration. And I think the other thing is, why are we bringing this tool in? Because one of the dangers, I think, with AI is that we're automating too many things, right? I honestly used to be of the mind that anything that can be automated should be automated to free up human productivity. I've actually changed my mind. I think not just because something can be automated means that it should be automated. Hadi's laughing. I'm going to hand it to him to pick up on that.
Yeah, I felt a little bit of that where before. So there was a small gap between my previous endeavors and starting this up, and then I discovered ChatGPT, and then I started letting ChatGPT do everything. I was like, "Can you do a pitch deck for me?" Yes. Can you do a business proposal for me? Yes. And then I was like, "Wait a minute, this is not my proposal anymore." So that's just where I started laughing because actually maybe it shouldn't have been automated because now I don't understand what I'm pitching. So yeah, there's a challenge to automation. I think it should be controlled, but yeah, it should be used to wisely. Wisely. is the
Wisely,
right word.
yes. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So
Okay.
did you want me to
Sorry.
answer the question as well?
Go ahead. Yes, I do.
All right. So for me, at the end of the day, for everyone on this webinar and everything, seriously, you just start with what you know. I have 2 examples. One is from, I used to work on a project for remote villages in 2019 on a project called Daya Maya, which means that enable, Maya is digital, so enable Daya in Indonesia. So these are people who didn't even have access to 4G. So they were like, they only had limited internet access and things like that. So these were in remote areas, really remote areas. But I discovered a guy, well, actually the co-founder of the project, the founder of the project actually found a guy who lived eight hours by boat to his island. 8 hours from anywhere. Nobody, you can't fly to the island. You only could take a boat, and it was 8 hours by boat to his island. And yet he was making 10,000 US dollars a month. Very simple. He just did buy and sell on different e-commerce platforms. I'll buy from this e-commerce platform. I start selling it on this e-commerce platform. And he was just making money from it. He didn't do any shipping at all. Everything was just, like, okay, I'll send it from here to this guy, then this guy will send it to that guy. And then like, wow. And all he had was 8 hours of Wi-Fi a day. And that's it, because they had limited connectivity on the island. And I was like, wow, if he could do it, so can you. So that's the first story. The second story, same also from the founder. I don't know if you've heard of Gojek, but in Philippines it's probably Grab. In Vietnam it's Gojek, I think. And probably in Thailand you'll have Line Man and things like that. So about in the early days of Gojek and Grab, I think they started very differently. But you fast forward a little bit more and you have 2 million drivers on these apps, right? So the question is, how many of these drivers actually can read and write? So they actually went down and asked, can you read and write? And the answer was no, they couldn't read or write. And yet they could use the Gojek app or the Grab app to pick up their passengers, drop them off, send money to their loved ones, and they didn't even understand the numbers on the screen. And yet they could do it. So the tool, it really transformed their knowledge. They actually took the time. I'll study this because I can get a job. So that was the second story. So that whatever tool it is, if it makes sense to the person, it does. The third is probably a bit more personal. My father, who's already 80, he likes to do work because he doesn't want to be a retired person in the garden doing nothing. So he actually is on TikTok and Instagram, but that's besides the point. He actually also helps submit financial information online to our government stuff, and I'm like, I can't even do that because I find it complicated. And he's like, yeah, I just had to take the time to learn it. And I think that's a good story to say an 80-year-old guy. Oh, of course, it's different. He actually, goes on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram and scrolls through and looks like, oh, this is the best place to eat tomorrow and things like that. That actually helps him have that enthusiasm to like, I can do this. I can do the financial filings. I can do this filings. I can use the government websites, which are, to be honest, usually harder than, like a company user-friendly website. So these three stories tell us that whatever point we are in life, as long as we can start, like Gina said earlier, from a point where you know what the subject you're going to do, and you already have some kind of basic idea what you need with the tool, you can just go for it from there. All you need is time.
Thank you. Taking the time to learn something new, regardless of your age or your background, get excited, be enthused by the idea that this is something new and I can use it. And really look forward to unpacking more features, right, as we go along. So I have a few questions here. We're springing down to our Q&A, Gina and Hadi. So I have a few questions on here from Teddy Setiawan on YouTube. What's the first step to business in crypto? I'm not sure you guys are both on crypto, but anybody would like to take a stab at that question for me?
It's not my field at all. Hadi, do you have any advice?
So I would say don't look at crypto as crypto, but blockchain is still an amazing technology. It allows you to build out contracts. It allows you to be very transparent about your business with people. So figure out first why you want to go into crypto. If you're there to like speculate and make money, no, that's probably the wrong step to be in crypto. To me, the real change and the real power of blockchain is in its immutability. So that means it's a great thing for contracts. So if you're selling your house, if you're looking at digital identity, if you're looking at high-speed movement of cross-border remittance, that could be a good way of moving your money, because then it complies with everybody's laws, because it's transparent and everybody knows where it comes from. So that's, for me, the first step is you have to understand why you want to be in crypto first. So if you know exactly what business you want to do, then you've picked the blockchain that's fit for that. If you're there just to speculate, I think it's gonna be really difficult, and it's not a great market to be in for that actually right now.
Yeah, so just touching the surface level, unless you want to go deep, and the reason for going deep into crypto, yeah. So time and energy, resources, you cannot take back. So all right, so there's one question here. Oh, I love this question. Is it more important for us to focus on a niche or explore different opportunities?
Okay, I see it's for me.
Specialized or general?
Let me just answer this very quickly. It depends on how big your niche is and how big you want your business to be. So for example, I have lots of friends who have a niche. They do F&B. They have a market, great fast food market for food. And they said, that's it. I'm not growing anymore because I don't want to have the headache of like running 100,000 stores across the world. I don't want to have the headache of building a franchise. I don't want to hire people to do that. I'm just happy with my business. And that's how big they are. And that's how they look at the niche. Do they explore different opportunities? Yeah, they probably invest a little bit here and there about property, but that's it. It depends on, so one is the size of your niche. The two, your appetite to grow it. Number three, how much potential capital you can create to explore different opportunities. So I think those are the three things. So if you don't have enough, start on your niche and work on it until you get it successful. But it must be big enough to support you first. If it's not big enough to support you, then you're probably in the wrong niche. Or then yes, you should be probably exploring other opportunities. And then the other two fall into place. That's my answer.
Yeah, I can add to that as well. So, you know, when we started Connected Women, so many of the angel investors that we approached said, but why just women? Aren't you losing half the market if you're cutting, cutting the men out of it? And I think it's a fair point. But I think at the end of the day, you know, I've been in the women's space since 2005, right? I understand this space. I understand my women's communities. I understand their needs. So I'm in a much better position to serve them than serving everyone. So for that reason, I believe that, you know, that is the space that I should focus on. And I think that's also very important. And also, where does your passion lie, right? Like if you're trying to solve a problem for a specific group, of course, I really want to solve similar problems for all genders and youth and elderly. But at the end of the day, I feel that we can make a bigger impact as Connected Women if we focus on the group that we feel that we can empower the most and bring our expertise to.
Yeah, the who question, right? So that's going to define, I guess, efforts that you make to serve them better, serve them well. There's one last question from YouTube, and then I believe we're about to wrap up. One more question from YouTube. With digitalization, too many scams happening, how to avoid all this? That's a loaded question. Any tip? How to avoid scammers?
It's getting harder because, again, tools like AI are making it much more sophisticated, right? Like with generative AI being able to produce very, very sophisticated videos and texts and everything else. So I think for sure, this is an area that we need to be very, very careful about. The platforms and the policymakers also have a role to play. But I think as individuals, we just have to be very, this goes back to what I was saying earlier, right? Stay on top of what's happening, understand how these technologies are evolving, and, you know, and read it's so hard to say, read all the terms and conditions for every platform you participate in, right? So maybe that's not a practical advice, because everyone knows the biggest lie ever told is like, I read the terms and conditions, right? But if you follow people in your space who are really getting into this, right? Really getting into the nitty-gritty of this and talking about this, then you can kind of learn a lot of tips that you can practically apply. So definitely find industry leaders in LinkedIn, people who are doing what you're doing, maybe in another country or is already a little bit more advanced than you, and just try and get as many tips as you can from people that are already doing it, and pass those on to your communities as well.
Thanks, Gina. Hadi.
All right, so I wouldn't say it's just scams. Misinformation is also one of the other. So it's, of course, scam is basically a misinformation campaign, right? In order to cheat you of something, right? But misinformation all by itself also happens because there's also lots of people who thought this is a trusted source and they started spreading it and they started spreading it. And then it just becomes just simple misinformation that leads to a total mindset change over something that may or may not have happened. So as human beings, I think we need to, and this is the problem, right? We all have a cultural lens that we want to look at. So if it fits within our cultural lens, we tend to believe it. If it doesn't fit within our own cultural lens, we'll say, that's not true. No matter how convincing the AI or whatever it may be, you know that it's not true because your cultural lens tells you. Again, back to scams like money. So if your cultural lens is, I need to get money soon, you may fall to that trap, right? Because you have that unfortunate feeling of this, and that's how a lot of people manage to fraud people out of money. And this is not a new thing. Scams are like, since the early days of the internet, you'll get an email saying, hello, I'm from so-and-so country with access to 42 billion in gold. I just need you to send me some money so that I can send you the gold. Okay, so that's existed from the dawn of the internet. That scam has existed from I guess it may have come from before when people started writing letters about it, but for me, digitally, that was the start. And you instantly know that if you get an email that starts with, hey, I'm from this country with a few $1 million. So of course, like Gina said, AI is coming in, they're changing it, everything. Even to, for example, a friend asking for money on Instagram, on WhatsApp. These are all that, it doesn't even have to be something major. It could be a personal request. Hey, I just got into an accident. Can you send me $50? Are you sure? Is that the person that you were talking to? And it's up to us to really learn every single tool that's happening. So we have to educate ourselves. What is a potential scam? What is not? And it's hard. I won't say it's easy. A friend and journalist once told me the easiest way not to get scammed or frauded is to keep yourself as low-key as possible. So the less presence you have as an individual, the less likely you will be frauded or scammed. Of course, that's hard as an entrepreneur because we have to be out there. So that's why my private profile and my business profile are so different from each other. You literally can't even find me on Instagram, hopefully. If you do, then I need to improve my own privacy settings. But yeah, that's what my own personal advice is: learn, understand, and don't forget that some things are seen through your own cultural lens. So be more open about the fact that it could be misinformation.
Yeah. All right. Due diligence. Do your homework. Be extra mindful of things you click, right? So it takes vigilance and self-awareness, self-education on what's going on. And when you go, deep dive on any one particular tool, learn as much as you can and really assess whether if it sounds too good to be true, then it probably is. Do your homework. So let's be extra careful. Technology is here to make our lives easier. It's not, unfortunately, there are unscrupulous users that take advantage of technology to do less ideal things. So I think we've learned. Thank you, Gina and Hadi. So summing up today's installment of the Explore Digital series, thank you both. What I got from this as a key takeaway is not all paths to success are straight lines. You both had funny ways, but smart ways of navigating the different calls to technology, business, balancing, switching, changing, etc., etc. But I think a lot of the nuggets you've shared today will benefit all of our participants. Those that are watching on YouTube, on replay, or on the Go Digital ASEAN website, please go ahead and replay, and watch Gina and Hadi share their personal experiences in growing their business. Thank you both, Gina and Hadi. We'll see you online. For those of our guests that are tuning in today, please stay tuned. We would like to invite all of you to answer our survey. Post-event reminders here. Share with us your feedback by filling in a short survey. Post-explore. Log into your account on the Go Digital ASEAN website or click the survey button in the Explore Digital event page. Once you complete the survey, you will see a button in the same page, where you can download your certificate of participation. I guess all of us are proud to have those certificates on hand. Thank you all very much for joining. Please visit our LinkedIn page. Okay, Gina is also on LinkedIn. You can find Hadi on LinkedIn as well. For those wondering when the next installment is going to be, please head over to Explore Digital webinar pages. So we are having our third installment, May 8th, empowering MSMEs in their journey to digitalization. To register for that upcoming webinar, you may go ahead and visit godigitalasean.org/explore-digital. Connect with the Go Digital ASEAN community by visiting our website, godigitalasean.org, and staying in touch on Facebook. So I guess we're all on Facebook. See you all there. We will answer some of the questions that were not answered today. Watch that page and follow us. Thank you all so very much. Maraming salamat po. Magandang araw. Bye.